Good evening, good evening, good evening again, you all. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We are going back to that horrible world known as the JRC. But before we do the usual disclaimers, I'm going to take a little bit of my tea here because my allergies have been acting up like crazy, and like dry heaving on air is not something I really recommend, folks. I really don't. All right, folks, if you are unfamiliar with the Stop the Shocks campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, you're going to find all the pertinent links right there in the description box. I did have to go ahead and shorten it a little bit because it looks like YouTube no longer allows me to continue to build on those links that have been growing with every video that we've been doing. So I've shortened it a little bit. Not really sure what to do with all those links. We'll figure something out, I'm sure, at some point. All right. So, Thanksgiving's coming up. I want to at least get 2 videos done, even though I'm going to have time. I'm going to go ahead and wait to start dissecting getting into Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s very problematic history and why all of us are getting extremely nervous in spite of the huge win of the FDA being confirmed to have the power to, of course, do the ban, because now we are in a whole new ball game, and it's just scrambling at this point to see what needs to be done so we're not kicked back to square one all over again. So I'll keep you updated on all of that. I'm keeping my eye on everything as much as I can. Let's go ahead and also get into, well, full disclaimers. Don't forget, in the description box, you're going to see the article in there written by NeuroClastic. It is a small non for profit started by autistics for autistics. In it, they interviewed over 800 ABA professionals in regards to the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center's so called behavior modification program. Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read that article so much. They threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit if they did not remove it from the website. NeuroClastic refused, folks, so you know the drill. Please read the article. Share on all your social media. Also included is NeuroClastic's public statement in regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding just in case the JRC ever does see through with their threat. Excuse me. Trigger warning 1. When we discuss places like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center or Agape Boarding School for Boys, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch glimpses of surveillance pictures of surveillance footage. It's been a long day, folks. People with mental health issues being and disabled people being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please make sure to utilize the headphones. Trigger warning 2, this channel is indeed marked not for kids for a reason. We use profanity on occasion, and we do speak on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger and they are watching this, very obviously parental supervision is advised. It's a nice way of putting it. I've been raised by Army veteran who also is a truck driver, so, proceed knowing that. Alright, where we left off yesterday. Remember, this is the response for ASAN. It is one of the comments that have been placed in regards to the new FDA proposed ban. We're kind of going over all of it while also nervously watching what's going to be going on and where everything's going to land with the JRC after the transition. God help us all. The FDA correctly ascertains that the electric skin shock devices present an unreasonable and substantial risk of injury that cannot be rectified by labeling. How in the name of God that anyone would actually think that you could fix things by proper labeling in regards to a device that is shocking kids at literally just below the lethal limit? I don't think there is a big enough stupid stamp on planet Earth to be able to use on any individual who actually thinks that way. Labeling doesn't fix third and second degree burns. Just saying. But let's get into it, because I've already said that a billion times. The Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, FD&C Act, authorizes the FDA to ban any device intended for use on humans if it finds the device presents substantial deception or an unreasonable substantial risk of illness or injury. This act was further amended in the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2023. This particular area is what gives them the authority to go ahead and ban the device. Something that I still believe, in my opinion, would not have been had to be done had they just actually targeted the GED device alone and named it originally. But yeah. Yeah. Anyways, to clarify that the FDA authority extends to banning a device for a particular use, which still makes no coherent sense to me because the particular device is only being used in one area for a singular purpose. It is not being used, you know, for my Thanksgiving ham we get to cook on Thursday. Nor is it going to help with the mashed potatoes or the very awesome smoked oyster stuffing. I don't even think it would even help with the apple butter cinnamon bread loaf that we're going to be having this year to kind of give ourselves a little break from pie. But sorry, Thanksgiving humor, and it's been a long day, folks. And I had to go to the mall yesterday. Uh, Anyways, let's continue. When considering what kind of illness and injury is substantial and unreasonable, the FDA examines how likely the device is to harm people, the likelihood of the device having adverse effects when compared with state of the art treatment and research knowledge on the population affected, and on any available alternative treatments, which is why, in spite of the JRC protesting throughout the entirety of the final rule last time, why that information is in there. Because if we have successful alternative programs, plans, treatments, what have you, with a good with a pretty good success rate on their hands, more than likely we are going to want to use that instead of, torturing people. God, it's depressing that it's already ending 2024 and this argument still needs to be had. Can somebody just shoot me or just send the comment already? God. Sorry. That's what I mean when I say I am an oxymoron, a hopeful nihilist. Wrap your brain around that one. In its proposed rule, the FDA also gives additional consideration to the fact that behaviors these devices are used to target occur with disproportionately high frequency in people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So that means, in particular, us dual diagnosis, which I can vouch for as someone who it's more than just dual diagnosis. Let's just put it that way. And the incidents when I was younger, in particular, and also leading up to towards the end of my time with Wayfair, I can tell you those comorbid conditions feed into one another, and what you end up being is in a circle of suck. That circle of suck becomes overwhelming. It starts causing you physical health issues, your agitation is higher, you're a lot more likely to go into an autistic meltdown. Trust me, as a person with this diagnosis and having comorbid conditions, I can vouch for that. I really, really can. And folks, this is why having an exercise room in the back where you can like put up punching bags is a beautiful thing, at least for me. The FDA notes that individuals with IDD often have difficulty communicating and may not be able to make their own treatment decisions, including providing or withdrawing assent or consent, and on this basis identifies these individuals as a vulnerable population. I will say again, this is the idea that we have to conform to neurotypical standards in regards to communication for them to determine if we are worthy or not to be able to give consent or not. Whereas me, behavior is very clear, solid communication. If a person is screaming no in your face, you probably don't have their consent. But that's not communicating, really? Really? Because if you can't figure out the simplest communication as someone screaming no in your face, I don't think it's us with the problem with communication and being understanding in regards to behavior here. I'm just saying, is all. Adverse effects, such as injuries caused by the device, can be physical or psychological in nature. More often than not, folks, especially if you've been abused in some way, shape, or form, and you are one of us, it's both. If you are a neurotypical, it's both. I'm just saying. Because even if it's just psychological or emotional abuse, the strain that can put on you is going to start causing physical problems. Maybe not immediately, but definitely down the line. Because again, that's something I can personally vouch for. Let's continue here. As the FDA notes, pain in and of itself is an adverse effect and one that can cause additional psychological and physical harm. The fact that these devices are intended to deliver noxious stimuli does not provide a basis for discounting the physical and psychological harms associated with pain from these devices. As the FDA reported in its proposed rule, there is ample evidence based on research literature, expert and survivor testimony, and even the JRC's own operational manuals of a wide range of physical and psychological adverse effects associated with the ESD use. These include depression, post traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, fear, panic, substitution of other negative behaviors, worsening of underlying symptoms, and learned helplessness. By the way, this also being married to ABA, you know ABA, where they tried to get you to accept someone's touching you even if you don't like it, you have to let it go on. You're not allowed to say no because that's not respectful. Neurotypicals, I have your respect. Right here. Fuck around and find out. Problem was, when I was younger, yeah, it took a long time to get myself out of that learned helplessness. And there are situations, even at my ripe age of 40, I'm 40 years old, folks, and I survived. That is a miracle. That is literally a miracle because there's so many times that, anyways, you can go back into that learned helplessness in regards to an out of control situation. Doesn't happen very often for me anymore. I tend to be pretty fierce, vocal, and just don't care these days. But if it's an extreme situation or I'm under extreme stress, that sort of stuff comes out to haunt me, as it does for many of us who have survived some form of abuse, whether it's actually physical or emotional or both, whether it's through school, home, caregivers, you name it. The situations are usually always different, but the reactions, well, you see where I'm going with there, right? Yeah. All right. We're going to read another paragraph and we're going to close off for tonight. I didn't expect this quote to be quite so long, to be honest, when I started on it. So let's go back here. As reported in the 2016 rule, advisory panelists noted that the manner in which the shocks are delivered, producing pain in people who have no control over pain, constitutes a perfect paradigm for producing learned helplessness. Learned helplessness is a behavior pattern associated with the development of depression and post-traumatic stress, which arises when individuals are subjected to an aversive or abuse they can exercise no control over, same as many the abuse survivors. The same behavior is also observed in torture victims. Individuals with IDD are at even greater risk of experiencing these harms due to the fact that they have little control over the use of the device, including limited means to communicate assent. Again, if somebody is repeatedly screaming you no in your face, I'm pretty sure that is extremely clear communication that they don't consent, but what do I know? I can't sometimes, people. I really can't. Little to no means to withdraw consent, and based on survivor reports, are likely to experience additional shocks for speech or behavior that communicate distress, defensiveness, or lack of consent. Thank you. Thank you. It gets worse. They scream at you, no talking out. Remember what Jennifer Masumba has told us all? If you weren't with us while we were going over the story of Jennifer Masumba, you are going to see a link both to her channel and to the different things she's had up on her blog over the years in regards to her time at the JRC. The survivors report receiving shocks for attempting to remove the device, for standing up, and for saying no. In one example captured on videotape, one student was shocked over 30 times in 7 hours, Andre McCollins, by the device while restrained. He was strapped down to a 4-point board and shocked over and over and over again. It is on videotape. It is on YouTube. Okay? Yeah. Yeah. He was initially shocked merely for saying no and refusing to take off his jacket, and then received additional shocks for tensing his muscles in anticipation of pain. It's not just that. If you shoot electricity directly into a muscle, because remember where they put the electrodes, directly over the muscles on the body. If you send electricity through those muscles, there are automatically going to tense. The person being subjected to the shock does not have control over that. So you're shocking them for having a bodily response natural to the body, having electricity shot through it that they have no control over. Yeah. And we to this date have been still not ever even given a hint of an idea that this place would be properly federally investigated like we've been asking for over the last 20 years. We're going to go ahead and close out for tonight, folks, and we'll go ahead and start here again tomorrow. We don't have many views on this channel. The few we do tend to get removed from time to time. If you could please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to hit those comments. I appreciate your time this evening. As always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everyone.